Hello, hello. Let me check audio and make sure it's working first. Oh yeah, it is working. Well, for anyone that sees this, good morning or day or evening, whatever time it is for you. This is going to be something a little new that I'm trying. I just launched my first script for like a public use Udon Sharp library for people to use. And I'm going to start trying to stream some of the things I make for that so that people can go back and look at my thought processes and look at how things worked. And hopefully, if the tutorials I write don't provide enough clarity, this can be an extra resource that can be referenced. I don't know if I will trim down this video to make it shorter and only hit the important parts because I'm frankly a little lazy. But this will be here as something people can reference, assuming everything goes right. Today, I'm actually going to go a little down my list. As you can see here, I have a couple of upcoming projects. I think I'm going to work on the movable tablet tutorial because I've tried a movable tablet in another world I'm having some issues with right now. But I think I have an idea on how to make it actually work on this world this time. If that makes sense. Obviously, this is going to require a couple of things. We're obviously going to need the actual tablet itself, which I'm going to make a quick rough draft here in a second, just to make sure that the moving it part works. And then we're also going to need to look into a combination of making sure each player gets their own individual menu so that people in the world can tone things up or down as their hardware needs change. And then also, if we want to save anything to persistence from the menu so that the next time they load into the world, it is saved and good to go. And then they don't have to go through the menus again each time they join and change their settings to what works best for them. They can just join. If they've been here previously, here you go. Here's your settings, and just have fun. Get straight into things instead of spending 5 to 10 minutes finagling with it to figure out how you can get over 30 FPS. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start on the tablet. This initial one is going to be a pretty rough draft. I doubt I'm going to make it very fancy today at all, depending on how far we get into this. I do most of my shape work with Pro Builder, which is, I'm not sure if it's by Unity, but it's one of the like native things in the Unity registry. You just have to go to your package manager, which I have mine off to the side. Normally package manager is window, and then your package manager can pop up here. Some people, this might look a little different just because VRChat uses an older version of Unity. But for people that are working on VRChat, at least right now, it should look similar to this. You just click Package Manager. It'll pull up this window, free to move like this. And then you can go up to the Unity registry, search Pro, and Pro Builder is like the third one down here. So pretty easy to get to. I like to drag it up here with my lighting and inspector just so I can get to it quickly if I need to add anything, because my Unity asset list, if I want something, takes a little bit to filter through, so it makes the process just a little bit easier for me. For anyone that wants to know, these are currently the things in this project. Maybe this modifies processes in the future, or something's missing and you have to manually add it, or some of these are automatically added. So there you go. But starting back on this tablet, we already made this cube. I want to get it into like a nice handle shape. Sorry, I'm thinking. We're gonna go for 1. Okay, that looks right. We're gonna do 0.2. That's our width in this case, with the way I'm looking at it. Our height, I want to say 0.6. That feels good. And then our thickness, we kind of want it to look like a sleek tablet. So that thickness is probably okay. That's going to be like a handle. I might make it a little thinner. Hold on. 1. Yeah, I think I like that better. And then the main part of our tablet is going to be this, which I can give it a 0.6 maybe. Yeah, I like that. So just connect this up and make it look nice really quick. We'll do a 0.1. Oh, that's set to 0. That was why. An easy way to snap things to each other when you have your actual like movement thing selected. If you hold V, you can see I can kind of select vertices. And if you click it to another vertice, it actually snaps it together. So that's how I usually achieve like a precision fit like this, where I'm trying to line up things very carefully. Is I just use the V tool, hold V, drag the vertice that you're wanting to line up, and then drag it to the vertice on another object that you're wanting it to line up with. Now, we can just copy this over here and do the same thing. Oh, I fucked it up. I wanted the top vertice. Is that right? It's back. There we go. Now, that is the basic structure of our little tablet. So I like making empties, which are just a structure that or not even a structure, it's just an empty container. You can attach stuff to it. And I was doing that and like attaching the handle to this, but I'm thinking to make this actually work, we need to have everything parented to the handle. I'm thinking that because in Unity, whenever you put something inside something else as a container, it becomes a child of it. So its location is tied to the parent's location. So if we make our handle the parent and the handle gets moved around like you can with picking up objects in VRChat, then as the handle moves, the rest of the tablet has to move with it, because the tablet will be tied to the position of the handle, not the position of the world. So I'm going to rename this handle as our actual tablet. And I'm going to take all these cubes we just made, I'm going to drag it under the tablet. So now all of these belong to this handle on the left. So for VRC pickup, let me pull this up in the actual documentation. VRC pickup. Hello. This is just the Unity documentation, by the way. So if you're looking for something, this is the place. Okay, yeah, all of this is under Okay, we're going to rely on my knowledge because this has a lot of variables I'm not familiar with. I know a couple of things about VRC pickup, and that is going to be if you go down here to, well, make sure you're selecting the handle since we're working off of that. Add component, and you can actually just search VRC pickup. And there's the little module for it, and you add that in. As you can see, VRC pickup requires the object to have a rigid body. And if you haven't already added a rigid body, it adds one for you. So I'm going to look here in our VRC pickup thing. And as you can see, a lot of these have descriptions when you hover over them. So interaction text is text displayed when user hovers over the pickup. So I'm just going to call this menu tablet for right now. Use text. Text displayed to display describing action for clicking button when this pickup is already being held. I'm not going to have a button like that for this handle. I believe that's talking more about like a trigger like you would use for like a gun or something if you were making that. My tablet's not going to have a gun attached, so I'm just going to leave that blank for now. Proximity is how far away you get the notifications about the object before you actually grab it. So I'm just going to leave that at default 2. Auto hold, yeah, I'm fine with auto detect because that's going to detect if the people are using like an index controller and grasp around it. Orientation, whatever people want. I don't think, what is disallow theft? I think disallow theft means that it's parented to you, but we're going to be instancing this for each player anyway, so I don't think that's necessary. I think that's everything right there. Let me double check. We're going to save really quick. And we'll go over here, and this is where, which also, if you don't have this, all you have to do is if you have the VRC content creator companion, you go up here to VRChat SDK, which should be installed already, and you can go to control panel. It'll ask you to log in and everything. But you come over here to the SDK, you go to the builder, and this is where you're going to actually generate your stuff to use. So I'll go ahead and show this one off first. There is a way to play it depending on your add-ons without having to build the world each time and pull up VRChat. But for this purpose, we'll go ahead and build it right now because I want to mess with it and see if this already is working or not. Is building. My build's going to run a little slow because I am recording / streaming this at the same time. Was that the smartest idea? Probably not, but here we are, and this is how we're going to do it. Because I'm lazy and don't like editing videos. So we're still slow. This is one of the worlds I'm working on. That's not good. I think that went through the ground. Unless it's behind here. This is one of the worlds I'm working on. Are you under here? I can't see. Okay. So we'll exit out of this. Let me see. Oh, is kinematic. We'll stop it from gravity. No more physics. Get rid of the physics. Save. And for people that do have it set up, you can just hit play and it should let you test it without actually loading the world like we did last time. There it is. Hey. Much faster. As you can see, no longer affected by physics. And, okay, yes, so this is working already. We can grab it, we can drag it around, we can relocate it. That is exactly what I wanted. Honestly, I might remove the right handle and just have the left one so people know to grab this and then just scoot the main body of the tablet over this profile already so far. So, with that in mind, beauty about this, all I gotta do to exit is not close the program. I just have to unclick this leftmost play button. This leftmost play button controls like if you're running the whole thing or not. This one, when you are running, can freeze where you are in place. So the left one controls on off of the entire thing. This middle one will just freeze it if you're in the middle of something and you're trying to like figure out what's going on, or you want to modify something and then resume it to see how that modification changed an object. Sorry, I'm responding to a message. Okay. So that beautiful. Love that. I'm gonna go ahead and do that thing I discussed of making this a little bigger. So all of these are 1 by 1. So all I need to do is add 0.8. Wrong thing. Whoops. Control Z. 0.8. Drag this bad boy over. And there you go. Now we have a little tablet with a handle on one side. I'm going to throw some random materials on this. I have a lot already in this project, but I want to have a better background than white as I'm working with this. We'll do tablet body is what we'll call this. I want just a nice like black. I don't really want this to reflect, so I'm going to make it pretty rough, and there you go. For the tablet handle, we'll create another material, call this tablet handle. I almost want like a brown orange, if that makes sense. Yeah, I kind of like that. Again, I don't want a shiny menu, so I'm turning that down. And I'll make these black too. I think I like the way that looks. Very simple. Obviously, you can make this as complex or as simple as you want within the limitations of Unity and VRChat. But I'm okay with this as a start. Maybe I'll spruce it up. But I like this orange brown with the black. Okay, so this does work. I'm going to go ahead and name all of this just for while I'm working with it, because I don't know how much I'm going to end up referencing that. Tablet, buddy. Oops. Naming things can just be a nice way of keeping them sorted, but I'm actually going to change this. Handle support bottom, handle support top. Done. Okay. So we have ourselves our little tablet body, and the handle works just fine. So our next order of business is to think about the things that we want to put on the handle and how we're going to do that. For the most part, there are plenty of exceptions to this, but I'm generalizing this. You're going to be using the UI tools for your toggles and menus and switches and things like that. You can do an object, like these are a trigger and it's like an actual interactable, clickable thing, which then comes over to this text, which is UI element type stuff. It's on a canvas is what it's called. So we're going to make a canvas which holds UI elements. That's what a canvas is. And line up this canvas with our tablet here. And then inside the canvas itself, we can program our buttons and switches with the UI tools. So canvases, very easy to make. You literally come up here in your hierarchy window that's normally on the left. You go down to UI after pressing the plus button. And you should see in here, if I could not be blind for a second. Is it just panel? Oh, no, that's a big whole thing. Not that. Where's my canvas? Where is canvas again? Pro Builder, UI Toolkit, UI. Canvas. Oh, I'm blind. Sorry. Is up there. I'm going to copy our settings. Canvases in Unity are huge because they spread across your whole screen, and that's represented in game as these like massive structures. So to get it from the void it's lost itself in, I'm simply going to hold Control Shift F, and that's going to put it. Oh, I'm holding my right click. Hold on. And that's going to put it hopefully right here in front of me. Making me into a liar already. Fine. We will go ahead and see about. Oh, this has changed since. This is my other canvas. And it's. Oh, I'm not in world space. I see the problem. I was already skipping a step in my head. You have to change the render mode. Like right now it's set to screen space overlay, so it is thinking about your like computer monitor, to world space, and now it's out in the world. And as you can see, where it's no longer trying to just be an overlay on a screen, now it has a world position to reference. And now if we Control Shift F, it'll come over here. And it is, you can't really see much with it right now, but it is there. To make this convenient, we're just going to copy the settings of this canvas I have over here because it's already appropriately sized. And that is with a width of 100 and a height of 50, and then a across the board scale of 0.01. So I come back to here. I'm going to rename this first to menu canvas for future reference. I'm going to do 100. I'm going to do 50. And if you don't want to change each thing separately in Unity, there's this little link here. You can click it, and when it's no longer crossed out, if you change one of these scale variables, it will keep the other variables in proportion of that scale. So it would, like that, it brings them all to the same scale, so it doesn't look weird or stretched or anything. So menu canvas, it's here. There's not a whole lot to it yet. We've scaled it down. If we wanted to add something to this, we're going to add like a button. Very big already, as you can see. We're going to drag this onto our tablet just so this will hopefully move with it. This is rotated 0, so clear out that rotation. That was just from the Control-Shift-F. And then I'm going to move this whole canvas back until it lines up with our tablet. Try to get it as close as I can. There we go. Now, there's buttons here. I can scale this down. We'll say 0.5, 0.2, a little bigger. Now, our tablet has a button. So we have our tablet, which is primarily this handle. We have some nice physical representation of the tablet just to make it look nice. We've added this canvas, which we've changed to world space and not screen space like it starts off with. We've shrunk it down. So I went with 100 by 50, so it's kind of like a normal sized rectangle. We scaled it down, very important on that one, otherwise it will be huge. And then we've readjusted the canvas to line up with the tablet, and then we scaled down our button a little bit more on top of that because the button was big. So now I'm going to save that. I save pretty frequently. Everybody has different preferences on how often they save. I sit here and spam Control S every change I make. So if we come in here to our menu, here's our tablet. It has a button on it. And as you can see, we move it around and the button stays on it. Currently, this button doesn't do anything, but it is there. So that is a start. Very simple. I mean, maybe not very simple, but I hope this is able to be followed along with. And now we can start thinking about how we want to lay this out, what we want represented in our menus and information like that. So I'm thinking I have these collectibles over here. I would like my text for how many collectibles the player has to also be represented on their personal tablet. So if I come over here, I have these two text elements. I can paste them in here. They have probably gone somewhere. Yes. Okay, yeah, they kept their old position over there. So if I bring you over, we're going to clear out any rotation. Then we're going to clear out your position. Where did text go? Oh, I've made this very small, I think. What have I done? Okay, I lied. We're going to just make our own text because that might be a little easier. The canvas, we're going to come up here to the top. If I'm doing text, I almost always use the UI text. TextMist Pro. There you go. Oh yeah, if you turn on gizmos, that's what I was forgetting. You can actually see where everything's located. So gizmos is this little circle right here. Usually I have it off because like for text, it gets really annoying. So you're like, what is that spelled right? And you just have the T floating in front of it and you're like, I'm not sure. So come back here. We're going to bring this down a little bit. Bring it over. We can obviously make this taller, and I need to shrink it over a little bit. So we're going to turn the width to 80. I think is maybe a good number. And yeah, and then we're going to add another 20 to the, another 10 to the height. And that should get us pretty close. There we go. We're going to bring our button up over here just so it's out of the way. And we have our first bit of text here. This also needs scaled down quite a bit. 0.5. 2. Yeah, we will do 2. And we're going to have this bit of text here, which is just going to be collectibles found. And we can extend this. I might be able to make it all fit in here. We might have to shrink the text slightly more. Zero. Then Control E. And this is going to be /0. Thank you. And now we're going to move this one over slightly. We're going to change the width to 50. I'm just going to leave it like that actually for right now. Because I'm not sure why that changed the way it did. X. I'm going to make this look a little cleaner. Like that right there. That looks nice. And I'm going to temporarily change our game code for our collectible mini game that is featured in another tutorial, which is on this sign. If you ever want a menu to stay, you can click this little lock in the top right, and then like if you click something else, the inspector doesn't change. I'm looking at this. That's our amount collected. That's the first 0. And then this one is our total. So I'll put that as the second. And now I'm going to go ahead and file and build this file, SDK build and test, and see how this is working. Sometimes there can be some minor differences between using the play button and build and test. So it's important every so often to test them in both states. Just because there's some code in one state and there's not in the other. So with those tiny irregularities, sometimes if you're doing something, it can act a little different. But for the most part, the play mode is pretty representative of what you're going to see once it builds and compiles. Okay, we're loaded in. we have our text. As you can see, our total has changed. And now, if we drag this around, that text also stays with our tablet like how we wanted. And then, the important test, if I select a collectible, you can see that changes as well. So, now we have our tablet. It has menu. Well, it can have menu. We can move this around and bring it with us as we're exploring the map, and it tells us exactly how much we found, which I need to add slots into the code to fit more text locations, but we're not on that right now. And if I click the second one, you can see now I have 2 collectibles found. You have this convenient menu players can carry around and be like, oh god, I gotta find 3 more collectibles. Where haven't I searched yet? Very good. So now we are kind of entering unfamiliar territory for me that I haven't fully planned out, which is part of why I'm recording this, so that people can see the learning process and how to do their own research and everything and figure things out. I don't know how to affect post-processing with a UI menu yet. I can do basic things with the UI like we've been doing here, but most of that is handled in my scripts, and then I just write to it somehow. An example of that is the script for this collection minigame. Let me pull this up so that people can see it. As you can see, I declare the 2 text documents. There's how many have been picked up and how many can be picked up to the total. And then I just write that text with the slash to the total by converting the number into a string. And then for the amount actually collected, I update that whenever an item is picked up and it's referenced. So then it, just like this one, writes to the total string. This one writes to the amount that has been collected as a string. Which, luckily, in this, with Udon Sharp, which is essentially C#, pretty easy to convert a number or symbols to a string. You literally just have to add this period to string at the end, and it'll go, oh, it's a number. You seize the to string, and it's like, no, it's not. It's text now. Everything's text all the way down. So now I want to think about, what do I want on this menu? I don't want to do post-processing type stuff yet, because I think I need to do a little bit more personal research before I start implementing that, especially in like a live recording. So today we're actually going to focus on a little idle game for people to carry around with them, so to have something to do while they're searching for stuff, or maybe once I get a video player in here, they can have the idle game off to the side while they're watching YouTube or something. To do that, I'm going to come over here. I don't need this button right now. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of it. Hi button, you were great as an example. You're going to go away for a little bit. So we have the tablet. It currently tracks our collectibles, which is one of the big features in this map. We'll have the idle game as another feature in this map. And to do that, we're going to have to start with a new script. So to create a new Udon Sharp script, which is how you're going to do most of your Udon programming, unless you use Graph, I'm not very good with Graph. I have more C++ experience, so C# is easy for me, and U#, Udon Sharp, is just a watered, I don't want to say restricted version of C#. So I come up into my scripts folder, which hopefully in your projects you're making folders for everything and properly storing things in an organized manner. I come over to my scripts folder, I right click, click create, and you can come up here. There's literally just U# script. If you are going for the graph or assembly, you can come over to Udon, and there's Udon assembly and Udon graph, also C#. But I'm just going to start with U# script. The window pulls up, and this is where you're going to type what you want to name the program. So we're going to call this, do I want idle game or clicker game? I'm going to say idle game, because as much as I'm going to have like a button you can press for points or something, the main point is to have like some points accumulating in the background. So as people are doing things, they see the points going up passively, and in their head they get, you know, the nice little dose of serotonin, dopamine. So we'll call this idle game. I don't use spaces in these because if I reference them, that makes it easier. So this is going to do its thing. It's going to generate two things. It's going to generate your script, which is stored in a CS file, and it's going to generate an Udon asset that goes along with it. You'd never really use anything in these Udon assets. At least I haven't found a purpose for it yet. So the main thing is your CS here, which you can open up, and if you have your internal development environment set up, which for me is just Visual Studio, then you should get it to pop up like this, and it has pre-formatted for you a lot of the things that you're going to need. So here we are. I eventually want this idle game to go into persistence as well, but for right now, we're going to just talk about making an idle game and the underlying logic for that, if that makes sense. So I mean, right off the point, idle games, you're going to have some form of currency, whether you call it money or points or, I don't know, bullets if you're like making it military themed, or cheese if you want to make it like mouse themed, whatever. You're going to have a currency that the player is going to be accumulating either idly or by interacting with something. And then they're hopefully, if you develop it more, going to spend that currency for upgrades to get more currency along the way until you get bigger and bigger numbers. And people really like seeing big numbers go up. So we're going to go ahead and give ourselves a public int, because our currency is going to need to be referenced by a lot of things. That's part of why we're making it public. An int, just a number. And we're going to call this currency. So now we have a variable or currency that can be referenced. Easy peasy. There's a couple of ways that you can go around this, and we're going to figure this out together in how you want them to start accumulating points and how often you want points to accumulate. There is obviously our void update function, which void update runs every frame. So if I think about it, all you have to do you can write this different ways. I'm going to show you longer ways, but I'm going to narrow it down. So obviously we have this variable and we're messing with void update right now, which void update, let me pull up the actual documentation for it, so we can all go along this. So this is Udon Sharp, which is a little different from C Sharp, but a lot of these things function the same way, if that makes sense. Update up there's post update. Post late update happens at the end. So as it mentions, with some things where you want positions to be really accurate, you can save the calculation towards the end. That's not going to be an issue for our accumulation picker. I'm going to just search a update. Okay, well, it doesn't say it in here, but if we go to C# update in the actual Unity documentation, which you can just Google, mono behavior update. Update is called every frame. So in Udon Sharp, we have Udon behaviors. In C# in Unity, it's called mono behavior. They are pretty equivocal. They're essentially the same thing. Udon just has some extra restrictions to it to make it work for VRChat. The thing that is important to remember is update is called every frame. So if you have someone with a higher frame rate, they can accumulate points faster than somebody with a slower frame rate. So I'm gonna use update as an example right now as our kind of like counter for time. But know that in the final implementation, we're going to be changing this because I don't want that disparity just because someone has a faster computer. I want it to take the same time and be the same experience for everyone. But Unity documentation and the Udon Sharp documentation, very good to reference, and it gives you the specifics of, hey, if you use this, this is what's going to happen. So if we come back down here to our Unity. Oh. If you click back into Unity after making code changes, it will recompile, which takes a second. So update. Or void update right now. There's a couple of ways to do this. So we have a currency, and we know that with each tick, essentially, we want that currency to go up one. Or if it's a button, you want the button to make it go up one. You can do this by just referencing itself plus 1. Easy way, pretty simple. You just take the current currency, which starts out at 0, and you add plus 1 to it. So now if this was 1 plus 1, 2, and it would save back into currency as 2. Next time it runs 2 plus 1, now it's 3, saves as 3. 3 comes back into it as reference plus 1, 4, so on and so forth. This is such a common loop that you can shorten it to currency plus plus, if I remember correctly. But you still have like this equal sign. C# and C++ and Udon Sharp let you shorten this even further from this, and you can literally just write currency plus plus. So every time this updates, this very short thing is just saying, hey, add 1 to this variable. And then it goes through and adds another 1. So you can make this pretty short. So an important thing I'm going to do for us to be able to see things, like text output. So we're going to call a public. Let me pull up our collection manager script so I format this properly. It's going to throw me an error because I didn't finish that, but I need this other script to reference. There we go. Now we both open. This is how you declare a text mesh pro variable. So public text mesh pro UGUI, and then whatever you want to call it. So this one is we're going to call currency output. Save. So now we have currency. We have a text mesh pro called currency output, and we have our currency +1. The last thing we need to do, because we have our currency variable and we are referencing and holding this text mesh pro variable, is we want to write to this text mesh pro variable. So that's simply going to be currency output dot text, because this text mesh pro thing is going to reference the whole thing, which you can get into formatting and stuff. We only want to change the text, right? So the text is, this is going to recompile for a second. Hold on. The text in a text mesh pro is just this box right here. So we want to only affect that actual box with the text in it. And we're going to say equals currency. Now this should throw us an error when we go back in and recompile. You can see it already. Cannot implicitly convert type integer to type string. So to fix that, very simple. It's literally just period to string, which is a built-in function in C#, U#, and C++. And now you can see we have no compile errors. So we can come back in here and let it compile for a second. There we go. So I'm going to bring this text up. Oops. There we go. I'm going to rename you into currency. I'm going to then copy this text over, bring it over here, and I'm going to put this at 0 for right now. Save. Just so it's there. Okay, something important to consider. Now that we have this very basic script, is where we're going to put it. I discussed this shortly in the collectible tutorial. I try to put it on an object related to the script. So for the collectible game, I had this sign here. So I put the actual script attached to this sign. That's not the right script. There it is. I had the cylinder selected. I put the collection minigame script attached to this sign that had the output. I'm going to put our idle game attached to our tablet. That's very simple. Once you have a script, is all you have to do is grab it and you can drag it over into the inspector on the right. You can, alternatively, if you're not comfortable with that, add component and search up Udon behavior. And this will make another window right here. See? Hide this one so you can't see it. So this is Udon behavior that you added through the add component. And then you can just select your script after pressing this little plus button. I find it easier to just drag it over, like a lot of things. So that's what I did. And then the last thing we need to do before we test this is we need to let our code know which text to write to. And in this example, that is going to be this 0 next to currency here. So if I drag this text, I pull it up. You can right click properties, by the way, to pull up like a second inspector, which can make life a little easier. I select my tablet again where the script is. Here it is. And you can see we have this currency output and it's a text mesh pro U GUI like we had set up. And I can just drag this text UI over into the U GUI and our currency is starting at 0. So if we test this right now, we should see the counter increasing very quickly as it's adding 1 currency for every frame that we experience and generate. So we're going to go ahead and build and test. I'm going to build and test and create a world again, just to get a break to take a sip of coffee. Oh no. I don't know what that error was, but it seems to be loading. We're in. Oh, it doesn't seem to have liked that way I've done that. Why not? Maybe that was a fluke. Let's try it again really quick. It doesn't seem to like the way I've written this. The same thing. Which is weird because that button's not even there anymore. Okay. Can I use a simple play? And what may be happening here is Unity may not be liking that I'm building something in update like this. As you can see, now our currency is steadily increasing rapidly. I should say rapidly, not steadily. But it is consistent as long as the frames are simple. Okay, it doesn't like that approach, it seems. Good thing I was going to change this approach anyways. Which is now I want to control how quickly this actually generates. And there's a couple of ways to go about this. I don't know what the most efficient way is off the top of my head, but I know how I'm going to represent it in this as I build it. And I may come back once I know a little bit more and reevaluate how I've done this. Send to VRChat. Here it is. So in the Unity bundle, I did not need this other window apparently. We're gonna close out of that one. We'll just paste it here. Inside here, we have send custom event delayed seconds. So we can bring this, I'm just going to copy it and bring it into our code. So very important, if we want to start this, we need it to start. We don't want to start it every update. We want it to start once at the beginning, and we can reference itself again in the code itself. So event name, which is going to be our, what we call this. So void currency tick is what we'll call this. So we're no longer referencing the update function. So we're going to come in here and tell you, hey, we want to send a delayed event for currency tick. We want to set the delay in seconds. So I will say once a second. So every second we will get a currency plus plus and it writes back out. And then event timing, I don't know off the top of my head, so let's look. Let's see what event timing does. Update, late update, event timing, okay. Okay, so this event timing just determines where it's going to fire in the process. So we will use update. It's just not getting called every update. It'll only get called once a second in update because update happens every frame. But we're only sending this each second. So once that second timer hits, it initializes it. And then in the next update, it will run it and we will go back. So we're just going to do update. So if we ran this right now, it should only go once. Oops. We have some errors to work out first. I forgot that. That's fair. Does that fix most of our errors? 1546. Fatal game. Can I just do that? One F, one float. Save that. See if it hates it. Nope, it's fine with most of it. On 15, we expected a comma. Maybe I need to get rid of that. I think I've done this before without even that, so we're going to try it really quick. Okay, I'm going to kind of cheat. I'm going to look at this clock script in which I did the same thing. I'm going to use this. I see. Okay, and back to our idle game. Reformat this some more. Name of currency tick and one float. And I know this should work because it works in my clock script. There we go. They compiled fine. Now if we press play and let it do its thing really quick, this should only give us one currency and then do nothing else. It didn't even do that. Okay. We're off to a good start. Fantastic. Did I spell these the same? Tick. One F. Oh, you know what happened? It probably knocked off the reference our script had to the text. This can happen sometimes when you're updating things. Oh no, it's still there. Let me look at our, did we use awake in our clock script? No, we used start. And this is void start. So that should be fine. Make sure there's not any weird invisible. Those are spelled the same. Currency all spelled the same. Currency output, yep. Time 1F. Save. It might not. This might be one of those situations where it doesn't like the in editor play. So let's test an actual build. And this is a good example, if so, of how pressing play in the editor is not always representative of what happens once you build and compile it. God, I'm tempted to go make more coffee. I just finished off this mug. Let's see. Does it give us that one currency? We're about to find out. Also, no. Am I doing this wrong? Welcome to 90% of coding that is, why aren't you working? And then it's going to be like the most obvious thing for why it's not working. Right? Because this works. And we call update clock. Update clock is down here. Is it not public? Okay. I had this issue before, which is why I just thought of it in this clock script. I had just void update clock. Without the public, this doesn't know where this is. So you have to make it public so that this immediately knows, oh, I'm looking for this, and it's actually like you're opening a book in the table of contents. Without public, it's like invisible ink. If you had public, it's like normal ink, and it's like, oh, there it is. It's right there in the table of contents. So now, with public, we should go in and be able to find that and run that script after the start, and we should get exactly one currency. So close menu. Hey, look at that. Exactly one. Okay, so we know our reference to that script works. And we kind of need one last thing to tie this together, is to keep that going. The easiest way I've found to do this is you can literally just copy this and stick it back at the end. So at the start, we say, after 1 second, run currency tick. And it comes down here after a second. It's like, oh, currency tick, you need to run now. Currency tick gives us +1 to our currency wherever it's currently at, which is why it just stopped at 1. And it outputs the text to strings so that it updates on our tablet. What we can then do, and what makes this nice and recursive, is we can send the custom delayed event again in its own thing and say, hey, in another second, use currency tick. And then it says, okay, currency tick gives us +1, outputs our text. Hey, in 1 second, run currency tick. Oh, here's currency tick, +1, output text. And in 1 second, run currency tick again. And it keeps going and going and going and going. So we've just made this little timer, essentially, that will keep referencing itself in an endless loop, which is kind of how idle games do things until it breaks. So now, we let that compile. You press play. And we can close menu and come over here, and every second we should be gaining another currency. So now we have this movable tablet with our currency counter. And as people are going around finding our collectibles in game, they can also keep track of the currency they're accumulating. It's like, like if you were at work and you had a watch that told you like every second how much money you made based off your hourly rate, we're doing that. And we can keep going through it. And we got the handle so players can take this with, and easy peasy, convenient. And as the number goes up, some people get that nice serotonin dopamine as they're going around looking for things. That way, if they get stuck and they can't find something, because I plan to make this map pretty big, there's still something going on that they can not be frustrated with. So, at this point, the next thing would kind of be to look at what you want the player to spend the currency on, whether that's upgrades or maybe you have some rooms locked behind currency, that type of stuff. So that's something to think about, and there is a couple of ways to go about this. I think I'm going to think about like making the currency tick faster for an upgrade, just as an example. And to do that, all you would really need to do is public set up a new int, and you would call this timer. No, timer is usually used to count down. Frequency. That's a good word for it. If I can remember to capitalize my words, because I like it that way. Frequency. And bam. And all you got to do at the beginning is say, hey, at the beginning of this, so as soon as the player loads into the world, I would like frequency to be set to, we'll say 5. So now things will happen every 5 seconds instead of 1. But we will still run our first one after the first second because it doesn't really matter. You have to initialize it. Frankly, like this could be 0 and it run right. Well, I don't know if you can use 0 in this function, but it could be a really low number that's essentially 0, and this is just starting the loop. This isn't keeping the loop running. But when we come down to here, let me put that there just to stay consistent. We can no longer use this, and we can just reference frequency. So now, if we come into our game, let it finish compiling. My bad. Float to int. Float. Save. My bad. There's it compiling. And now we can come in here and update our thing. So now, every 5 seconds, we should be getting a currency. Bam, there it is. Easy peasy. Another 5 seconds pass, there's another currency. Slow trickle as like a starting point. Now we can write a function, make it public so other things can reference it, and we can call this frequency update. There we go. And in this, we're going to say, I'm going to make this simple and do frequency minus minus, which just like our currency plus plus, this subtracts 1. So every time we would run this, it would decrease our frequency by 1, which right now it's currently 5. So we can make it a little faster. To make this work, which we already have that there, easy peasy. That do its thing. Finish compiling, clear all these. Come over to our tablet. And now we actually have a use, add a button. Hello, Mr. Button. I would like to scale you down 5.3. And we can simply call this the oh, you have to have an actual image for that. I'm not going to make an image for this just yet, but if you come down here, you can see on click, we can invoke stuff. If we want to plus this and come over here. Does this auto add our function? Idle game, yep. Okay. Oh my god, there's so many things here. Whenever you make a function, I can oh, I closed it. Sorry. We're getting there. We're getting there, I promise. Sure. Whenever we make a function, which is this, so start is one that's already defined in Unity. Currency tick and frequency update are functions that we've made with this yellow coloring. You can use those functions, as long as you reference back to the object, as a event. So all we did was make this button, right? We haven't changed anything else about it except for its size to make it fit on the tablet. We reference our tablet, which is where our idle game script is stored right now, right? So we have this on the tablet. We go to our button. We reference the on click action. So whenever you click the button with our tablet. And now, if we come in here, you can see our udon behavior that is our idle game. And somewhere in here, if I can find where F's are, A, B, does it go too far down? Wake, unjoint. Interact. Don't see it in here. Wonder if this would work. Wonder if that would work. I wonder properties, because the tablet's going to have a lot of things attached to it. I wonder if it would narrow it if I specifically drug idle game into here. Oh, that looks like it narrowed it. No, I lied. Okay. Hey, where's my program? This list is too long. We'll try that. Wonder if that's actually gonna work. You're gonna find out. Tell you what. That's the thing about Unity is, well, any programming, there's just a lot of trial and error. It's very easy to get discouraged if you mess something up or you tried 15 ways to do it and it doesn't work, but you never know. I'm clicking this, you can't see it. Yeah, no, nothing. Let me make sure it's not just in the UI. Okay. So we found a way not to do it. So now, oh, here's the text. Call this upgrade. Save that. Public void frequency update currency tick button. Tell you what, we're not going to use this right now. We're going to do our own. We can, if I could speak, choose how we want this. So we're just going to call this upgrade button until I can figure out buttons a little bit better. Apparently I don't understand them. Is thinking. After we do this, I'm probably going to stop for the day because we're already at an hour and a half. Upgrade button, our new script. I don't care about you. I would like, however, this pickup script. Okay, so we can reference other things, other programs we make, right? Way to declare this is simply public, whatever you have it set to, because we have our collection mini game script, so we need to declare a variable for our mini game script. In this instance, we're going to call it idle game because that's what we're working on. And 9 times out of 10, I just do that. And easy peasy. And save. The button has a specific, what's the word for it? A specific function called onClick. Hello. So we can come in here and we want to declare a button. I don't think this is a game object, or let me double check. How to reference button in variable. Yep, just public button, my button. Okay. How easy that was. So in our script, public, was it capital? Yes. Public button. Yep. Nope. Button. Stop that. Upgrade. Frequency. Because I don't want to put it as the class name. Now, on click, remember correctly, this should be referenceable. We can double check. On click. Ooh, that's a class. Oh, void. Is me, I'm the problem. Here at our other codes. Pick up all that in our that. Yep, here it is. Idle game dot whatever we called it. Idle game dot frequency update. Which is, yep, cool. Save that. And if we come back to Unity, we should be able to drag this into our button. Button is not real. I wonder if I can just use a game object. You know what? We're gonna how to refer button. You sharp VRChat specific. Tell you what, I'm going to go and research this one a little more off screen. Really the main thing I wanted, which was the movable tablet, is working. So we got that figured out. Small progress today. I will reattempt upgrades tomorrow. It's not a now problem. So you all, oh yeah, no, that doesn't work. You all have a good day. Hopefully these help a little bit, and I will eventually be writing and putting the tutorial for this on my website.